Hi everyone, welcome back to another scrapbook layout video, and thank you for joining me again today. And welcome to another week of the Allison Davis 4x6 class. I do not remember at all what this week this is, and so I'm just going to leave it at that. I will tell you, when I saw this sketch, I did not like it. It is not, I think, if you are in the class, then you know what it looks like. If you are not in the class, then it has a ton of little small hexagons around the photos. And that's about all the pattern paper there is. And I first thought, well, kind of a couple things. One, I kind of wanted to try it to break out of my norm of, always doing the same thing. But I could see myself not really liking it. And then I would find something that maybe I thought I could use. Like I thought I would use some florals in place of the hexagons or, some other kind of element like that. But then I wouldn't find the right photos. And I honestly, I walked away one day and I was upset because I was just trying to get all this stuff organized for the last few weeks. I wanted to get them all recorded, and get them all done so that I would have them and be ready. And nothing. It was like, okay, I just can't take this. And I honestly even thought about not doing this week and saying to you guys, hey, I just couldn't do it. And I figured you guys would be okay with that, But then I was kind of chatting with a friend, and I thought that I would pull out Bloom Street. I found these photos, thought these photos would kind of work. And I thought, hey, maybe I will play around and just see what Bloom Street has. Mostly for the florals is kind of what I was looking for, because I knew that you could really replace the hexagons with anything. And so that's why I was thinking florals. I've seen a ton of examples where people use different items. But this paper was in the Bloom Street collection. And I was like, oh, that's just too perfect. I have to use this. It's perfect for the hexagons. I'm going to be a little tedious with it, and don't worry, I'm not going to show you all of it. But what I'm kind of doing here is I'm going to kind of take a look at where she has the hexagons on the sketch, and I'm going to kind of very, very lightly pencil in around where I want to cut some of these hexagons out of the paper, because I don't want to cut them each individually and glue them down. That's not the look I was going for. I thought it would be funner to basically kind of just cut out like a bigger piece, and you will see I will add smaller ones around later on. So I'm just kind of, again, taking a look where she has her hexagons and kind of going with what will look good with this paper. And I'm only showing you a little tiny bit so you can just kind of see. I'm putting the photo where it goes, moving it over. This one I wanted to make sure there was a couple people at the end of the photo that I thought, hey, I'll just put that hexagon there because it will cover it up, but I didn't want the hexagons to cover up the photos, like the grass green part of the photo, I mean. So then I went and I cut them out along my pencil lines, and you can see here, some of them I cut out the little white triangles in between, and others I didn't. I knew it had a white background, so I wasn't super worried about not cutting all of those out, even though I know that you can see that it definitely makes a difference. And so with doing that, I'm going to go ahead and you can see here I'm using some removable adhesive because I did not want to start out with my ATG adhesive not knowing how this was going to go. But I'm going to go ahead and just lightly, and I did go back and add extra adhesive, some wet glue behind those, by the way, so just so you know. And I'm going to put those down, and I'm going to go ahead after that and glue the hexagon papers down. And I am very lightly inking the edges. It doesn't really show up on these photo mats, which is something else that I did different. I do not believe that the sketch called for photo mats, but I didn't want to just have like a full white background. You might have seen at the beginning I tried to use the paper with the stripes, but that was just, I didn't like it the way it looked with the hexagons over the top of it. So I quickly, nixed that idea. But that way I have just a tiny bit of the ink helping it all stand out a little bit. but again, I just very lightly, and I don't even think I re-inked um, the sponge dauber, whatever you call it. So here again, I'm just using some removable adhesive because I want to make sure that I'm going to like it. And mine are not exactly the same as hers. They've got a little bit of variant to where the hexagons are. I don't even know what size. I'm sure it says on the sketch. She almost always says what size of something she's using. So I'm not sure what size I used for that. Um, but or I mean, excuse me, I'm not sure what size she used for her hexagons, but I knew that mine were definitely going to be a different size. Um, this is a really good layout. Now, the other thing I changed is where you see the two 4x4 photos. Those are 4x6 on her sketch, just so you know, in case you want to kind of follow along, but don't have the sketch. Um, I did change mine to 4x4 just because I wanted them to be a little smaller. And I did struggle just a tiny bit because you can see the rabbit. And okay, these are pictures of me in Disneyland. My daughter went to Disneyland with her band because she was on the color guard when she was a freshman in high school. And so I went as like a chaperone and got like 3 or 4 days in Disneyland all by myself. The teenagers wanted to go off and do their own thing, which I was totally fine with. And let me tell you, if you ever get a chance to go to Disneyland by yourself, totally do it. Because at first I was like, what am I going to do in Disneyland by myself? But it was one of the best times I've ever had. But I looked up before things to do in Disneyland, and a couple of the things I found was like this little owl and rabbit. Well, I never knew that these were around the castle, and so it was one of the things I went and found these two little guys. Um, I think that I meant to find more. I don't remember, but uh, I, anyways, these are the two that I loved the most. The only thing, that rabbit is looking up and he's kind of looking off to the left, but the owl is also looking off to the left. So I kind of struggled with which one to put on which side, but I think it turned out this one I kind of like the way the rabbit looks like he's like looking up at the photos maybe, and the owl is looking down at the other photo. So plus it's right next to the other photo with the owl, me and the owl. So just thought I would share all that. And I'm going to struggle with the title quite a bit. I wasn't really sure. I really wanted to use these thickers. I want to say these are a Chamel's thicker, but I could be totally wrong. But they have sayings in it like I could see her using. But they're really old. I had these thickers that I got as a freebie from scrapbook.com one time when placing an order. So I turned off the camera because it took me a good, at least 20 minutes to figure out my title. And I finally went with these other thickers that I have that have this silver shiny, because a lot of the ephemera and everything in this collection, this is Bloom Street by Paige Evans, in case you didn't know. I might have probably already said that now that I think about it. However, there's a lot of very silvery accents in it, and so I really wanted to bring in that silver because I wanted to use some of those accents. And now to I was torn a little bit with what to do because there's not, it's more of like a spring collection. There's not a ton of things that really went for the whole Disney theme. I did the My Happy Place. There was a couple sayings, but none of the sayings that I wanted to use were on the right colored paper. I have the purples and the yellows and the pinks all spread around from those hexagons, but I wanted to bring, like where I put the blue and purple butterfly on the right-hand side, I put that there on that side because I wanted to bring the blue and purple from the hexagons over from the left to the right-hand page. And that's also another reason I did the photo mats, because that also brings around all those different colors. The photo mats, I did use a 6x8 pad. I somehow ended up with two 6x8 pads, which I'm not sorry about at all because they're gorgeous. You guys know me. I'm not a huge American Crafts fan. I rarely buy their stuff, but this was a collection that I fell in love with. It's totally my style, and I love everything about it. I also tried to use that hummingbird up there, and it probably could have gone. I mean, it's me, it's photos that I like of myself, but I couldn't find a hummingbird to go anywhere else on the 2 pages, and I didn't want it to stand out that much. So I'm going to go with butterflies in all of the clusters. So now you can see I have also added in where, again, I just cut some shapes off of the hexagon paper and added them around kind of in a couple spots that she also had hexagons on her sketch. Excuse me. And then not even knowing that she had these on her sketch, but I thought it would be fun to put tiny hexagons or smaller ones inside some of the other ones, which you might have seen me do just a moment ago. And you can kind of tell in the top cluster, and I popped them up on some foam tape. And it's a very thin foam tape that I used because I didn't want a lot of attention brought to those, but I just kind of thought it would add a little bit of interest. And here you can see what I'm doing is cutting down a small pink one to go over this one of these down in each cluster. I believe I do it in each of the little cluster areas. That cluster down below, by the way, I don't know if it's on camera that I show it, but it will change just a little bit because I felt like it just needed a little something more. So just, you can see that in the still shot photos in the end though. And so that is kind of what I did. The other thing that I'm going to do, oh, and to do that, by the way, if you look close enough, you will see that those smaller hexagons, I just kind of eyeballed it. I didn't have, I wished that I had maybe a smaller hexagon punch that would have worked for adding those in, making them smaller, but I didn't. So I literally just kind of eyeballed it and I called it good. And if you, like I said, if you look close enough, you will see they are totally misshapen. You know, they're not the easiest shape to cut by hand without, you know, following something. So here you can see, again, I'm going to do, oh wait, I'm doing something different with this one. But I wanted to point that out to you, that not to be afraid to, even if it doesn't look perfect. If you're like me and you're OCD, you probably feel like a lot of things have to be straight, but I kind of just went for it because I really wanted that little extra something with all the hexagons. And then to add a little something more, I thought it would be fun to cut out a few or more of them and add them around in the clusters, but kind of floating off on their own. And so I'm inking the edges of these ones that are kind of floating off on their own, and just an FYI, the smaller ones that I added on top of the other hexagons, I did not ink the edges of those because I did not want those to stand out that much. I wanted them to be very subtle. Just thought I would throw that in there for a little bit of information if you wanted to kind of follow along. And yeah, I'm just kind of gonna go ahead and cut some hexagons to kind of go along and come out in different areas. I'm gonna add one down to this cluster. I'm gonna add some to each of the clusters. So when you see it, they will all have little floaty hexagons in each of them. I'm even going to do it, I think I add one with the group that's above the title between the two photos, the two 4x6 photos on the left-hand page. And I felt like it needed a little something there. I think I was originally thinking that I would be able to put some kind of embellishments over the word happy. And I probably should have put the word my over to the right a little bit. I didn't do it because I guess the descender or the bottom part of the Y went right along the side of a hexagon or covered something up that was there. And so that's kind of why I did that. But I do think maybe it would have looked better with that word my just moved over a little bit, but I'm happy with it. So I'm not going to change it. It looks just fine at the end of the layout. I didn't even really notice. And I have to tell you, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think if I had not found this hexagon paper, I might not have done this sketch like I had mentioned. I really struggled with it, and it's one that I wouldn't mind having tried any other time, I think, but it was because I wanted to get, make sure I get this video up, and I didn't want to wait till the end of the week. It's just, I just kind of wanted to get it done. And so that's what was frustrating me about it. But I say, hey, give it a try. If, try something new. Maybe pull out your papers if you're struggling and see what kind of papers, and maybe if you can use a pattern paper instead of something else, like the hexagons. I do have some hexagon dies, and I do think it would be funner. I just don't have anything this small. Um, I think the hexagon die that I have is like the smallest one is like an inch, but it's not something I really want to go invest in because it's not something I would use all that often. So even a punch, I have a punch, but again, it's like probably an inch or so or bigger. But I have something like that with even a bigger hexagon would be just fine as well. So again, here I am just cutting down some of the hexagons, trying to match the colors a little bit so that the colors that I'm adding of the smaller hexagons don't totally clash with the hexagon underneath it, because again, I just wanted that subtle pop every here and there. I did add a butterfly in each cluster, and I am also going to add some pearls. I think they're called pearls. They're silver pearls. I think I might do that off camera, and you will see that in the still shot photos in the end. But basically, this is my layout, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I would really love to know if you guys are part of the class, if this is a layout that you are going to struggle with, or if you've done this and you love this sketch. Let me know below. I'm curious. And yeah, there you can see in the still shot photos the popped up hexagons. They're misshapen, doesn't matter, but those silver pearls also really pull the whole page together. And I put 3 in each cluster. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next week for another 4x6 layout. All right, bye.